Welcome to the Chronically Healthy Life show. When you hear the word chronically, do you automatically associate it with chronic disease? We all do. It's been programmed right into us. But what if we flip that whole idea on its head? Let's discover how we can create chronic health in our bodies, our minds, our finances, our relationships, and of course, in our lives. Let's jump right on in. I'm Andy, and joining me in everything is my life partner, Minna.
So when we talk about health, we often think about body, right?
Mhm.
But what about your memory? What about your mind?
I think the mind is really one of the things that we want to be sharp with, especially as we're getting older with longevity, right?
Yeah, but it's also something that almost everybody thinks that as you get older, that your memory is going to go with you. So it seems like it's a phenomenon that it just happens as you get older. Is that true?
Um, I think it's true. It's just like muscles. If you don't, if, you know, your brain's like a muscle. If you don't work the muscle, you're gonna lose your mind. It's just like if you're not doing push-ups, you're not walking up and down stairs, you're not gonna be able to walk anymore, right?
So interestingly, memory, when we talk about memory, is actually not one thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually 7 different things, and we can talk about 4 of these things today
Okay.
because these 4 is easier to understand for me. I don't know how to tell you something that I don't understand. So there's this professor of psychology at Harvard. His name is Daniel Schnechter.
Schweck.
I'm sure I'm not saying the thing right. So anyways, he wrote this book called The 7 Sins of Memory, How the Mind Forgets and Remembers.
Sounds interesting.
It's interesting. And memory isn't just one system. And it's a collection of different systems in our brain, right? There's the episodic, semantic, procedural, working, sensory. Don't ask me what they all mean. They all mean something. They're different systems, and they all go up to the brain. And this is why you can maintain a memory in one type, and you may be able to lose it in something else, right?
Okay. So with problems of memory, one of the ones that you want to talk about was transience. So what's transience?
So transience is like the weakening or a loss of memory over time. So let's say we tend to remember our childhood stories,
Mm-hmm.
and as you get older, that story seems to change a little bit. You're kind of missing the key elements as you grow older. And the funny thing is that the stories usually actually tends to get better.
Oh yeah, because you elaborate on it and it just keeps getting better and better for sure.
But interestingly, about 20% of people in their 70s, they still have the memories as sharp as college students, which kind of confirms the fact that you don't have to lose your memory as you get older, right?
So how do you strengthen these brain muscles? Like what do you do? Is that what they're doing? Why there's 20% of us, hopefully we're up there at some point.
Well, you kind of have to use it. Like you said, brain's a
Correct.
muscle. You have to train it. So, if you want to remember something, you talk about it, you discuss it with people, then that will actually reinforce it in your brain, and that will actually help you remember things easier.
So the things that you want to remember, those are things you want to talk about more with your friends, so it stays in your mind then, right?
So if you don't have any friends, or it's something you don't want to talk about with your friends, just talk to yourself about it. It's fine. You can talk to yourself in a memory. It's all good. No one's judging you.
The next one is absent-mindedness.
That's you.
And that is totally me, like with lost keys and lost iPhone, lost wallet. It's funny, how Apple has that Find My
The
app
AirTags?
and then the AirTags. Well, we got AirTags or some form of AirTag and everything now. So if I lose it, I can use my watch or my phone. If I lose my phone, I use my watch to find my phone, and then I use my phone to find my wallet and my keys.
Right. So absent-mindedness is another form of memory loss. And it's kind of like your brain is playing a never gaming of hide and seek with you.
Mhm.
They're just hiding things that you don't know where it is. So, how do you get over absent-mindedness?
I don't know. I would
I
love to
guess-
hear some tips on that.
AirTag kind of work, assuming you know where your phone is at that point. But pay more attention as to where you're putting this stuff,
Mhm.
or just always put your wallet in the same place. Always put your keys in the same place. That helps. Schedule meetings in your calendar. Make sure that you have reminders. That kind of thing just sets things in place so that you don't actually have to rely on your memory to remember those things. These things are like post-it notes, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little reminder to help you remember little things like that. So, that's what post-it notes are so common.
I agree. I used to have post-it notes all over my computer before iPhone. Now everything's in my calendar. So much easier, much easier.
So that's why you're not missing any meetings.
So the third one you want to talk about is blocking. What does blocking mean?
Blocking is when the memory is there, but you just can't get it out. It's kind of like when you say,
Like a mental block.
You know what, that guy from that show, that this thing, and I'm like, okay, I can't read your mind. But that's blocking. It's like something that's blocking, you just can't get it out. It's a recall, I guess, and that problem with memory is called blocking. And that is the number one biggest complaint of people over 50.
Which is us. Or at least me, anyway.
I am over 50. We're the same age. So the majority of these blocks, although they're very annoying, they usually come back within a few minutes. And you usually can, remember what you're trying to say in a few minutes. And one of the techniques that the author is sharing with us is that you can go through the alphabet. So if you're trying to remember the name of a person, just start thinking from A, B, C, and maybe eventually the name of Jack is going to come back to you.
So Jack will come back under J when you're going through.
Something like that.
Okay. That sounds interesting. And the last one that we want to talk about is persistence, right? And what is that?
I'm not really quite sure, but I think it's along the same line as nagging. So these are moments of issues when memory is not leaving us. They just keep talking about these emotional memories. And I remember my mom, my grandparents, they keep talking about these same bad memories over and over again. It's like they can't get rid of it. Things that you want them to forget, but they just don't forget. That's persistence. So it's like the other side of memory problems. There's not a memory loss. It's like you just can't get rid of it.
And I think these memories, these persistence, it's probably going to be relevant a little bit in our topic today about dealing with trauma, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of studies how you might actually block your trauma. From a daily life, from your memory, just because you don't want to remember it. So, there's studies about that.
Great.
And you know what's interesting though? They did mention about Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love Sherlock Holmes.
Right? You know how he has this memory palace. When you watch a movie, they said he can figure out the whole picture of the crime scene where everything happens.
Correct.
He got dropped over there, and the blood is over here. There's blood splatters over here. This whole memory palace is a skill that you can learn. But it's very difficult. So that's why Sherlock Holmes is the only one that can do it. But, when we talk about how to boost your memory, you can do little memory exercise. We did this Jim Quick thing.
Yes.
He's great with that. He's great with brain training. Or nutrition-wise, I heard the Mediterranean diet is great. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the Mediterranean diet is really good on... the main thing a lot of people don't realize is the Mediterranean diet is using just really good, healthy oils. And, a lot of people think that the brain requires sugar for fuel, but brain actually loves fat for fuel. But it has to be good fat, right? And I think that's where the Mediterranean diet comes in. It's not about eating everything that they eat with all the veggies and olives and stuff like that. But they do have a lot of very good high-quality oils and high quality fish that's giving you all this fish oil. So I think that's where it really helps with brain health.
Right. I think when we had the Dr. Amen training before, he did mention that your brain is only this size, but its weight is like 10%, 15% of your body weight, even though it's only this much of your body.
Correct.
So you actually have to put in a lot of good energy to your brain. You have to feed it something good. So Mediterranean diet, olive oil, avocado oil, good oils, good fats.
The good fats. It fuel your brain. And of course, Sleep is one of the most important things and the best things you can do for memory, because that's the time when your brain is actually repairing itself, going over everything, using your lymphatic system to clear out all the garbage in your brain. And that's how you retain the good memories and throw out the bad.
All right, so that's it for memory for now. We're going to take a break. And when we come back,
we're going to have a great guest. We're going to have Tanya speaking with you. Wait for that. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome.
All right, strap in, folks. We're about to take a joyride through the fountain of youth. It's Annie Nam from Chronically Healthy Life. Ever wonder why some folks seem to age like fine wine, while others are more like a mold cheese that's been forgotten in the back of the fridge? It's like they got the energy of a Duracell bunny on Red Bull, while the rest of us are running on fumes. Now, you might think hitting the gym and munching on kale is the ticket to eternal youth, but sometimes it feels more like we're just speeding up the aging process. Picture this: you're on the treadmill, feeling like $1,000,000, and suddenly you look down and realize your knees sound like a bag of popcorn in the microwave. Not exactly the sound of youth, am I right? But fear not, my friends, because here's the kicker. It's not just about the number of candles on your birthday cake. It's all about those sneaky little stem cells playing hide and seek inside your body. At the age of 20, you got more of these bad boys than you can shake a stick at. But fast forward a few decades, and they're scarce as a parking spot in downtown Manhattan. But guess what? We got a secret weapon up our sleeves. Phototherapy patch technology without drugs. That's right, folks. With our stem cell activation patches, you can hit the rewind button on aging faster than you can say reverse aging. So if you're ready to reclaim your youth, look younger, feel stronger, and heal faster than a superhero with a side of espresso, then it's time to hop on board the rejuvenation train. Schedule your free consultation now at calendly.com/thefoolishcouple/stem cells. And let's make aging look like yesterday's news. It's not anti-aging, it's reverse aging, baby.
Hey everybody, welcome to Kids Corner. Today we are talking about trauma. This is a really big deal in our society, in our whole world, because if you're alive and you're a human, you're going to have trauma. Everything from tiny trauma to very big trauma, just as a fact of life. So I wanted to talk about how we can help our kids deal with trauma in a way that teaches them how to cope in a positive way rather than becoming a destructive force. Number one, when a child is expressing feelings, they're crying or they're angry, don't dismiss them and don't put down their feelings. Instead, get with them and talk to them. What's going on? Make them tell you. They'll tell you what's going on, what made you feel this way. Talk it through. Why do you can, depending on how old they are, give them hugs, reassure them that you love them no matter what. That's a really big deal. Speaking as someone who didn't have that as a child, that's a big deal. Number two, at the same time that you're honoring feelings, you don't want to coddle them. You don't want to make them lock into playing the victim, because that leads to a whole different set of problems. So there's a big difference between honoring, hugging them, saying, I understand how you feel, and coddling them, which is, oh, I didn't believe that could happen to you. And I'm going to do something and they're wrong and you're right, because you know what, with kids, it's really never a he's wrong and you're right. It's usually the two of them got into some mischief together. So that does happen. I taught for 30 years. It happens. Third tip is get in the habit, and this is going to be for the whole family's benefit. Get in the habit of daily stress relief practices, stretching, breathing, taking walks outside, no phones, no computers, just being, even if it's only for 15 minutes. This is a huge benefit, and it teaches the children how to cope in a very positive and uplifting way, so that they're learning to express their emotions, to deal with them, to understand them, and then to physically use their bodies to release them. Okay, ciao. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life show. I am very, very pleased to welcome our guest today, Tanya Jones. Her groundbreaking work includes the development of the Don't Just Stand There training series, which features facilitator-led modules and live stage performances based on her personal experiences of sexual trauma. With her passion for advocacy, creativity, and empowerment, Tanya Jones is a force to be reckoned with, transforming lives and communities through her impactful work. Welcome to the show, Tanya.
Good afternoon, Christy, or good evening. Oh my gosh, good evening. How are you? And thank you.
Oh, very well. I've been very excited to talk to you tonight.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Listen, let's just jump right in because our topic is trauma and the importance of acknowledging trauma. You were telling us is the first step. So can you tell us what that looks like, or get into that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, as a person that has experienced trauma, the first thing that you want to do when you experience trauma is pack it away. Either forget about it, bury it, you like pretended it didn't happen. You're trying to process it, and you're doing the best that you can. But the problem with that is that if you don't address it, if you don't accept that it is something that happened, if you don't give that trauma some validity, it hinders your healing process. And that is definitely something that happened to me. I took my trauma, my childhood trauma, and I buried it so deep in my closet that it really kind of didn't surface again until I was an adult. And when it finally all erupted, because that's literally what it did, it just came up like the way I would explain it to people was like vomit, like the worst, nastiest thing that you can imagine. And it all came at me all at one time, and I had a complete meltdown. And that was because, I just kind of kept burying it and burying it and burying it. And I heard in the earlier segment when they were talking about, the mind and how the mind allows you to hide information. I think my younger self did exactly that. I think my younger self kind of also assisted with hiding some of that trauma from me, so I wouldn't have to process it the way that I did as an adult, because I was so young. But you have to do that. You have to address it, to identify it, because that's going to assist you on your healing journey. And that's ultimately what we want. We want to go from that person that has experienced trauma when we're probably in that victim stage to working towards healing and being an actual survivor of trauma.
Yes. Moving past the victim stage, locking into the victim stage can do way more damage. I've seen that happen.
Absolutely. And the way that I live now, it's, back then I didn't even realize or understand the terminology of victim. I knew something had happened to me. I didn't necessarily give it any labels, but now I would definitely tell you that I'm not a victim. I would tell you that I was victimized, or that there were some things that has happened to me that were very traumatic. But now I am absolutely living my journey to being creatively free, and just doing those things that allow me to thrive and survive and be this victorious warrior that I am today.
I love that. Because really that's what it is. It's like you go through a tunnel of, you have to go through it. And when you get to the other side, there's no going back. You really free yourself.
Absolutely. And I'll share a story with you. because you hit it right on the head. You hit it right on the head with the hammer. You've got to go through it. I remember I'm a person that, like, I can drive in any weather. I can drive in the snow. I've lived in upstate New York. I've lived all kind of places, and I can drive in the snow, no problem. But I hate to drive in the rain. And if anyone knows, if you've ever been to Florida, it could literally be pouring, raining, and then just 2 feet away, it's like beautiful open skies. I mean, it's the most beautiful thing, but it's scary when it's raining. And I remember one day I was in Florida, and I was like, man, I'm here and it's rainy season. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I could see the clouds and I could look up ahead, and I'm like, it looks really ugly up ahead. I know that it's pouring and it's like a waterfall. And I remembered saying, Tanya, the only way that you're going to get through this storm is if you push through. You've got to go through it. You've got to go through it. And so I put both hands firmly on the wheel. I said a little prayer, and I just went ahead and went through it. And I went through the storm. And as I, started to come through it, I literally could see the skies opening up. The sun was, blaring down. And I thought, oh my goodness, how beautiful this is. And maybe like a half a mile up, you could see the most beautiful rainbow. And I was like, Tanya, but isn't that it? Isn't that how life is? Sometimes you're dealing with things that's so traumatic, but you've got to go through, you've got to keep pushing forward. And the point is to not give up, right? Because as long as you don't give up and you keep pushing forward, you can come out on the other side.
Absolutely. It's, that self-reflection, and you have to be honest with yourself, and it can be painful, but it does, there's no denying that the other side is so wonderful. It's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love being on this side where I am right now of trauma. I absolutely do. And and it's great to talk to people that when I'm that now that I'm on this side, because I can, my hope is always to just show them, like, there is an opportunity to get through this, right? Where I'm at today is not where I started. But if anything, this should be a sign of hope that you can get through.
Absolutely. That story sharing is extremely powerful. You actually do that on the stage in front of groups, I think. That must
absolutely,
be
absolutely.
Yeah.
It is. So at Interactive Advocacy, that's pretty much what we do. We provide unparalleled storytelling through lived experiences as well as scripted. And being able to tell our stories and use our voices, initially, especially for myself, it was a journey that really was about me healing me, working on me, making sure that I was okay. And then I realized that, by telling my story, not only was it helping me, but it was also helping other people. So with that being said, on my journey to my creative healing, I used to write a lot, and I would write these stories, and I would imagine myself being victorious, triumphant over the people that had caused me trauma or harm as a young person. I could visualize myself or imagine myself someplace else. And then even in some of my situations or experiences of trauma, it was almost like transcending to another place, right? I can just imagine myself someplace else, and every time victorious. But that ultimately led me again to interactive advocacy. So the very first play that I ever written was my own sexual assault or sexual trauma story, and it's called No Words. And it was bold and it was provocative, but it was impactful, And the first time that I ever saw it on stage, I was so afraid that I would come undone, right? And that I was gonna just be boo-hooing and all of this, and I was gonna be like, oh my gosh, am I gonna be able to keep it together? But the truth of the matter is that the tears were okay. They were welcomed. And I did have some, but I didn't come undone, right? I didn't unravel. What I did was I embraced again the trauma that I experienced. I recognized that what happened to me was real. And I leaned into it so that I can, again, continue on that journey, on that path of healing. But even bigger than that, even bigger than the help that it brought to me and the peace that it brought to me, was watching how the actors and the edutainers on the stage had so much regard, so much compassion and care as they shared my story. Like they shared it in a way that made me feel like, oh my gosh, I was in such a safe space. And afterwards, I was thinking, if one person would come to me and just say, I appreciate it, you've now empowered me to tell my story, I would be okay. But then when I looked up and saw how many people were actually waiting in line to talk to us, to tell us thank you, to tell us that not only have you empowered us and you've encouraged us, I've now, for the first time, feel safe enough and comfortable enough to report that I've been a victim of sexual assault or trauma. That was huge. That was huge. And so, I mean, I love what we do because we're able to tell our stories in our own voices, our own way. And every time it brings about a new experience for our audience, spectators. And we never know what's going to happen at any show. We never know what the feedback is going to be. But it's always positive.
Yes. Oh, yes. Because when you give voice to yourself, I mean, we feel like we're doing it for ourselves, but it empowers other people to give voice. And then it starts to grow. I've also noticed, like, the more that you heal in emotional traumas, there's physical healings that I've heard of miraculous things happening with physical healings, even like things like cancer just disappearing because somebody, did that process of working through their emotional trauma. So there's a mind-body connection there.
And the mind-body connection is huge, right? And I can so speak for self on this because it literally, my trauma manifested in my body like you wouldn't believe, right? It literally did. And I was an avid distance runner for years. I ran track in high school. I ran distance running in the military. It was something that was very peaceful for me and something that I just always enjoyed doing. And I think what started to happen, and I didn't put the dots together at the time because I didn't know why. But literally, as I started to unravel, and literally as I was starting to recognize that I had this trauma that I had not dealt with, and all of these red flags and all of these different experiences, these triggers were happening in my life all around, like back to back. It manifested in my body to where it physically started to make me sick, right? And even though my family or my grandmother had some very similar ailments, it had laid dormant in me pretty much my whole life. So I suffered from a chronic lung disease. That's what ended up happening. And I'm like, well, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I run, I eat healthy. Like, how could I have a lung disease? What do you mean? But it was the trauma. It was literally the trauma just taking hold of my body. And every time there was this new thing that triggered or that, that kind of took me out of my element, I wasn't in a safe space, my body felt it, my entire body. And I ended up having, apart from this chronic lung disease, 5 mini strokes. How does one person have 5 TIAs, 5 mini strokes? It was the stress. It was the trauma. And see, at the time, I thought I was doing the work, right? I thought I was doing the work to heal me because I was working for 20 years, working in compliance and investigations and sexual assault prevention and all of these different things. And I was helping so many people the best way that I could, but I wasn't helping me. I wasn't really focusing on doing the creative spaces and the happy places and safe spaces for me. Nothing to cultivate my own inner peace, right? And so my body felt it. my body absorbed it, and my body just finally said, I can't do this anymore. And it just gave up on me. And literally twice in my lifetime, true story, the doctors have told my parents and my family that she's not going to make it to the end of the year. She's not going to be here. Right. And so, you know, it was one of those things where I can't slow you down. I've got to lay you down. And I needed to lay down for a whole year. And during that whole year of reflection, I had to learn how to breathe, talk, walk, all of this stuff all over again. I was out of it for one whole year. It caused me to really reflect and to really think about all of the different things and all of the times that I've experienced trauma and what was happening in my life and why did it happen this way, and recognizing my vulnerabilities. And it started with forgiveness, forgiving myself. I didn't even realize that I hadn't done that. I hadn't done it. I hadn't forgiven me, the young me, the innocent me that just did the best that I could with what I had available. And because I had not taken the time to just forgive myself and just say, it's okay. It's okay. There's no one that's going to hurt you today. It is okay. You are safe. It wasn't until I started to do those things mentally and then say them out loud and then walk that talk that I started to see that, you know, my body, my mind, how I would move, how I would speak would start to change. And now if I still have a chronic lung disease, I do. I mean, it's there. There's no cure for it. But it doesn't stop me from doing anything. You know, when the doctors say, well, Tanya, you know, you probably need to slow it down a little bit. And I'm like, you know, I'm not going to slow down, right? I have a purpose. You know, I'm not going to slow down. But there is balance, and you also have to make sure that self-care, that you do self-care, because it's very important.
Yes. And before we get into, I think we have some tips for self-care and trauma, but before we get into that, how about the resilience? Like which comes first? Does the resiliency come after you kind of start working through it, or we talk about that being resilient, but I think people don't really know what that actually means.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think for me, it kind of happened simultaneously. It wasn't, I didn't plan on being resilient. And to be honest with you, there are days when I say today to now, like, I don't feel like being resilient today. I don't feel like, right? I didn't necessarily plan on being resilient. I just knew that all of the things that I had experienced, I had made a commitment, and this was my own personal journey with my own personal spiritual and religious beliefs. I had made a promise that I was going to be here, that I wasn't going to give up, that I wasn't going to allow the things that infected me to continue to affect me anymore, right? And once I decided that I wanted to be here, I just knew that I needed to move forward. Moving forward and taking the very next step, like not even thinking about a year from now or months from now. It was literally like I need to get from my bed to the bathroom, from the bathroom to downstairs, from downstairs to the mailbox. Like it was literally just taking it one step at a time, baby steps. If I would just move forward, I would be okay. So I think as far as my resiliency journey, it was really just that simple. And then what I did during that time, just so that my mind could just process all of the different things that I was feeling, was just write what I was feeling, take notes, journals, write in my diary. It was just something that I always did. And the stories just got bigger and more victorious. Sometimes I could be vulgar, I could be angry, but I could pour everything into it because that was my own personal safe space. Because back then we didn't do therapy. right? There wasn't that we didn't do therapy in my family. That wasn't something that they expressed or we experienced. So that was kind of my therapy. And so it was simultaneous. It was writing and moving forward. And ultimately that would lead to me being resilient. And then recognizing that the only way that I was really going to heal is if I got this all out. And so once I started writing, the no words, for example, the no words play, I didn't know that that was what I was writing. I didn't know that it was going to be a play. I didn't set out to say, I'm going to write this play. I just knew that I needed to write, and it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I was like, this is the story. This is the story that I needed to tell.
Mm. Yeah, yes, I think you're right. I think sometimes the resiliency you need is to lay on the couch and watch Netflix and rest. And
Yeah.
then and baby steps. The power of baby steps is immense.
Ooh, the power of baby steps. And you know what? And it's okay to take those baby steps. Not resiliency and self-care does not look identical. What works for you may be something completely different than what works for me. Maybe for one person that looks like writing. Maybe for another person it's baking or cooking. Or maybe it's doing yard work because you get to be grounded and you have your hands in the soil. Maybe it is, like you said, watching Netflix and just being in a space where, today I just want to relax and I just want to enjoy the calm and the quiet and just laugh or just cry or maybe even be startled just a little bit so I can just, think about something else. So self-care and resiliency and creating that safe space looks completely different for everyone. And I say, whatever it is, embrace it and lean into it as long as you're doing something that's going to work for you.
Yes. And you're not just burying the feelings.
Absolutely. And you can be more creative. There's yoga, there's dance, there's all of these other things that you can embrace as well. And there's nothing wrong with that. But some of those things are some of the tools that you'll learn also with therapy too. And I would always say, please, if you're a person that has experienced some form of trauma, whether it be childhood trauma or adult trauma, that you go and seek out actual therapy, because that was just a game changer for me.
Yeah, that's good point. Well, let's move into some tips for self-care with trauma. Like, number one, prioritizing your self-compassion. I love that phrase, self-compassion. How much time do we waste beating ourselves up? I should have known that. Well, you didn't know it at the time. So let yourself off the hook.
Let yourself off the hook. Give yourself some grace, right? Give yourself some grace. And that's what I was talking about earlier, forgiving my younger self, right? I had to forgive myself for all of those things that I did as a young person, trying to protect myself. And so you have to give yourself grace and just allow yourself that time to just, to heal and be okay with that, be okay with that forgiveness. And then once you're able to forgive yourself, then you can move into spaces where, you forgive other people. And just because you forgive other people doesn't necessarily mean that you now have to give that person access to you anymore. That, you're just that forgiveness is more so for you, so you can make peace of that situation. But along those lines, I would also say boundaries. One of the tips that I would say on the journey to healing and creating that safe space is putting boundaries in place. I didn't have boundaries in place for a very, very long time. And as a result of that, those were things that would be triggering to me. Sometimes there can be some re-victimization and you don't even realize it. So putting boundaries in place was very essential to me. And not just putting them in place, recognizing that me as a person that's a giver, I'm always going to give. That's just my personalities. But there are going to be people that are going to always push past your boundary. They're going to be people that just want to just see, how vulnerable you really are. And so I put those boundaries in place, but not only do I put them in place, I respect them. I respect myself enough to know that when I put those boundaries in place, I put them in place for a reason. And as a result of that, I'm not gonna falter, or waver from that. I'm like, no, if it's no, it's no. If I can't do it, I can't do it. So that would be another tip that I would say as well.
Oh, the power of no. I love the power of no. I'm a recovering people pleaser, and being able to say no, like everybody wants something from me all the time. I work at home, and so it's like, oh, but it'll just take a minute. Yeah, but it's a minute of my time, and it's not a minute, it's an hour. And
It's an hour. It's an hour. It's an hour. And yeah. So no is a whole sentence. And I'll show you. I keep it. This is how much I believe in the word no. I keep it very handy.
No.
I have my no pen. No. I'll do speaking engagements and stuff, and I'll have my no. No is a whole sentence. No. I use it on my children, and they don't like it. And I have adult children. But no is a whole sentence, and we have to do it. We have to say no. So I
can you
appreciate
do that one more time?
Absolutely. And I won't say no. I'll say yes.
No. Yeah, no.
I absolutely love my no pen. It says no in maybe like 20, 30 different ways. I absolutely love it. It's great. And sometimes I have to tell myself no, right? So another tip would be self-talk. Someone asked me the other day, they said, Tanya, who are you talking to? I said, I'm doing some self-talk. I'm talking to myself. And it was like, oh my goodness, I thought I was the only person that talked to themselves. And I was like, what? No, I was having a whole conversation. Tanya, you absolutely know that you do not need to do that, because you need to be over here this time. So this is what you need to do, and this is how you're going to go about getting it done. And so, I am a firm believer of self-talk. I think self-talk is great. It's invigorating. It's empowering. There's nothing wrong with it. And I definitely say the same way that I would embrace the no, I embrace self-talk.
I do too. And sometimes people stare at me because I am self-talking in the grocery store. But that's another thing.
Right.
Now,
right.
in the realm of therapy, another tip is also building your support system around you. And sometimes that means eliminating people, as well as, bringing in the ones who are real support and getting rid of the ones that, take away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So for a very long time, I always saw myself as the brown girl in the ring, right? And as a young person, I used to be the person in the ring that was always fighting. My family would say we would see you fighting all the time. And as I got older, I would say, everyone always saw me fighting, but they never asked me why, right? So I was in this ring, and I needed to fight like a boxer in the ring. But then as I got older and I started to do a little bit more work on me, I realized that I needed to become the ring. And as I became the ring, I did it so that I can protect, my younger brothers and sisters and family and friends. I needed to be the ring for them, right? And as I am the ring for them, I'm recognizing that there are certain people that I can no longer allow to have access, no longer allowed to have access to me, no longer have access to my family. And that's that whole thing with the boundaries, right? But as I was developing the ring for, the people that I cared about, I realized that there were also people that were for once in my life, I felt finally putting that ring around me, right? So when you're thinking about support, you're absolutely right. There are times when you're going to have to move people out of your life so that you can be on your healing journey. And that is absolutely okay. Just because you're now healing and you're now improving and you're now bettering yourself doesn't mean that those people or those places that you've elevated from, that you need to allow those people that caused you trauma to bring you back to them. Exactly. Even family. And sometimes people forget that.
They do. We have to have you back and go deeper into that topic right there. But right now, how can people reach out to you and find you?
Absolutely. On all of our social media platforms, everything at Interactive Advocacy, there it is right there. Anything Interactive Advocacy. But one of the things I do want to say is up there, you'll see it says NC Vet Biz. Real quick, I'm also the president of the North Carolina Veterans Business Association. Please go to our website because we're doing something amazing and fantastic. We have all of these scholarships available. So please, 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 it's a one-year scholarship. We have about 80 of them left. Go to ncvetbiz.org so you can learn more about the scholarships in cybersecurity. Huge, huge, huge. I'm really excited about that.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for coming on today, Tanya. I mean, you are a fascinating person and you're so honest. I love that. It just.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you so much, Christy, for having me. Thank you so much. Can't wait to come back.
Yes. Okay, stay tuned for the biohacking tip of the week.
Hey everyone, it's Andy from Chronically Healthy Life, and on this week's biohacking episode, I'd like to talk about physical trauma, specifically physical trauma that's probably happened in your past during your younger days, and that's basically what happened to me. I had a really bad car accident, physical trauma that happened like over 30 years ago. And for 20 years, I suffered a lot of problems from that, even though I depended on modern medication and physiotherapy and all the rehab to try to fix that, right? And what I want to let people know is when it comes down to physical trauma, it's not just about the pain medication to manage the pain and the rehab. You have to be able to boost your body's ability to heal itself. And when we're younger, I think our bodies heal itself better, and it seems to be able to mask a lot of these pains. But as we get older and our body loses the ability to heal itself due to declining stem cells, we're going to start feeling all this physical trauma again. That thrown out back, that blown ACL. Maybe you hurt your shoulder. Right, a lot of people are blaming like frozen shoulder. Well, this is something that may have happened when you're younger. It really has nothing to do with old age. It really has to do with your body's ability to heal itself as you get older. So I honestly believe that the body has the innate ability to heal itself if you do it right the first time around. So for those that have suffered physical trauma, be it from a car accident, be it from a work injury, like falling off your ladder, or being from a sports injury, blowing your ACL, tearing a ligament, tearing a muscle, it's not really all about just rehab and pain medication to manage it. You really have to figure out the different modalities to boost your body's ability to heal it 100%, not 90% or 95%, but 100%. Otherwise, you're going to start feeling all this trauma 10, 20, 30, 40 years later when you get old, and that's when people blame it on OH disease. It's not OH disease. It is actually young age disease that happened when you're younger, but now you're feeling it as you're older because you never addressed it. And that's really what I want to talk about for trauma for this week's biohacking episode. Reach out to me if you're experiencing any type of chronic conditions that you may think may be caused to physical trauma in the past, and we'll work together and see what we can do for you. Goodbye now. We all hope to age gracefully so we can enjoy later years with energy, vitality, and good health. But so often with age, our bodies show signs of things just aren't the same as they used to be. Our energy, skin, healing recovery time, and sleep all go downhill. If you had physical trauma that happened to your body like I did, this happens much faster. I felt like a 30-year-old trapped in an 80-year-old body. But do you remember as kids, the boundless energy we had, how fast we recovered? This is not because of getting old, but because of active stem cells inside our bodies. These are the cells that can generate and regenerate all the cells and structures in the human body. They are the building blocks of our organs, tissues, blood, and immune system. They also serve as an innate repair system everywhere inside the body. But as we get older, stem cell activity slows down, become less effective in repairing damage, and decline. By the age of 20, we only have 1 billion stem cells left. By 30, they decline by 60%. By 50, they decline by 75%. 60 by 90%. And by 80, We're lucky to have 50 million active stem cells. But what if we can naturally stimulate our bodies to reactivate and regenerate new stem cells through phototherapy without drugs? Now we can with our LifeWave X39 stem cell activation patches. Reclaim your youth and look younger, feel stronger, perform better, and heal faster. Get your patches now at lifewave.com/chronicallyhealthylife. It's not anti-aging, it is reverse aging.
Welcome back to Chronically Healthy Life. I love Tanya's interview. What do you think?
Yes, trauma, there's a couple of things you talk about, like self-care. I think a lot of us don't spend enough time with self-care. And sometimes you just need to, I know you enjoy it a lot. Every time I'm off traveling, you got self-care and you get to do all the cool stuff. But, I think it is important. A lot of us need to find more time for self-care, right? What do you think about that?
I love that she emphasized on saying no.
Yes.
And it's really something that when you're going through a lot of schooling, when your parents brought you up, you always expected to say yes to, the parents, the teachers, whatever they ask you to do, this is meant to be good for you. And you're supposed to say yes. No one ever tells you that you can actually say no. And it's to your benefit and it's for your own self-care. You don't have to say, yes to everything. And no one really tells you that until you're like a grown as adult,
And it's true, when you say no, you get to filter out the things that, I don't want to say that it doesn't matter to you, but that doesn't help you forward your mission. That doesn't help you forward what your ideals are, what your goals are, right? So, saying no is very important. Like you said, when I was younger, I said yes to everybody. And that really stunted my growth in the last few years. Now I learned to say no to the people that doesn't bring value or beliefs to what I do.
Mm-hmm. For sure. In terms of investing, Buffett is very known to say no to 99 of the 100 prospects that he gets every day.
Mhm.
So, 99% of the time he says no in terms of finances. In terms of time management, that everybody has the same amount of time. So when you say yes to someone's request asking for you an hour of a time, you're giving up your hour for something else that might be actually more valuable to you that can, build more value to your life. So, in terms of time management, saying no is a good thing. In terms of self-care, saying no is a great thing.
Exactly. So who do we have next week as a guest?
We have Patty Hoyt with us.
Great.
So it's going to be a great show next week.
So join us here every Friday at 7 p.m. CST. You can watch past episodes at watch.e360tv.com in the Vitality TV network, or of course on our YouTube channel at Chronically Healthy Life. We always love to know more about what you thought about a show, how we can improve on a show, or even what topics you want to learn more about on a show. So visit us on our website at Chronically Healthy Life. Drop a comment on our Facebook page. We would love to hear from you and, share with you more things that we can help improve your life on.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
We are Mutts and Meows Rescue, a 501c3 nonprofit, foster-based, no-kill group. Mutts and Meows Rescue pulls dogs and cats from surrounding shelters in the greater Houston area. We even pick up dogs and cats abandoned on the streets. Mutts and Meows Rescue is foster-based and rely on your donations to keep rescuing. To know more about us is to know more about our furry friends and help them find their forever homes. Come visit us at Mutts and Meows Rescue on Facebook today and decide how you can make a difference.
Hi,
Hi, Laura Cross, your host for Mindful Mondays, every Monday at 1 p.m. Central Time, where you can embark on a transformative journey of self-care and ultimate happiness. Tune in to the Voyage to Vitality channel on the Achieve TV network. Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. Be there, be mindful, and join us on E360 TV.